So I wouldn't drink it.
When you say they, who's they?
The people in charge. Look,
Who's the people in charge?
well, at the low level, it's the government in Westminster. That's the low level people in charge. But above that, there is something for the teeth. Your teeth, yeah. Well, but it turns out from dentists is that it doesn't do anything for the scaffolding within the tooth. It'll create a hardening on the outside, but it actually weakens. It's almost like if I put your leg in a brace, it would weaken the bone because you were no longer having to bear weight on that. Fluoride was used by Hitler to dumb down the people in the concentration camps in World War II. Fluoride is used as rat poison. Do you really want to be drinking rat poison? But the thing is that when not in there. But the thing is that there's things called dissolved solids in all of our drinking water, including that. And there's about 330 parts per million of dissolved solids in Evian. I tested all of this myself 5 years ago.
Are you a scientist?
Yes.
How long have you been studying?
Well, I mean, I'm 55. I've been studying all my life. But when did I leave the mainstream dogma? 8 years ago.
Have you gone off grid now?
I have spent time off grid, but I'm not off grid at the moment. But
because you're doing social media, so this is not off grid, obviously.
No, but I think that the technology that we have at our disposal we should use. So the water distiller is a great example of something that you should consider using.
I'm a great believer in the stars and the
universe. Awesome. I hear that a lot. I get a lot of that.
I'm not dissing one.
So let me answer that because my wife loves astrology, and in the flat Earth.
In fact, I believe I wasn't born on this planet.
Okay. Well, I won't challenge that. However, on the flat Earth, the Earth or the universe is close to us. It's all around us, and so that means that the zodiacal sign.
The universe is what?
Well, if I was to shrink it down to an orange.
Yes.
And say that it was the whole universe was an orange,
yes.
And right at the center of the orange where the seeds are.
Watermelon outside, isn't
yeah. So you can take it as a watermelon, but I like the orange analogy because it's got a seed pod at the center, and that seed pod would be the continents around with the water around it, and then the microcosm would be you, is the seeds with an electromagnetic apple that surrounds you. We all have an electromagnetic signature around us. You'll obviously know that. But we are a micro in the macro. And so the macro is the same as us, but it's just a much larger version of us. But it has all the same attributes. I think we are the universe, but we are a fractal of all. Fractal of God,
Do you think
fractal of...
something is existing beyond us?
Possibly. Possibly. So I say, because I use the orange analogy, I imagine the possibility that either we're all individual oranges within the same orchard, but then that means there are other trees and perhaps other orchards as well.
Does this mean basically what you say is that, I guess, because you're just going back to the whole Earth is flat. So there's every picture that we receive from outer space fake.
It's all CGI, and NASA admit that.
What CGI?
Computer-generated images or artistry.
What, you think nobody's been on the moon?
No. I used to believe in that. Do you know that if you and I went to the moon today, one of the first things we do is take a photo of the Earth. Do you know they didn't bother doing that for the first 5 missions? Only on the final mission did they bother taking a picture of the Earth.
Why are they taking
the picture they take would show that the Earth is round?
Well, so 100 years ago, a lot of people were still certain that we had to live on a flat, stationary Earth. Kind of biblical, right? Anyone who's biblical should know that the Bible was, and for people who were reading the Bible 100 years ago, it was like the Earth is flat according to Genesis. So there's no question there. But once they went to the moon, or once Russia put a man in space, Yuri Gagarin, and all of that, then they were like starting to convince people, oh, maybe we do live on a globe, you know. So the globe images that we've all got in our minds are an important part of the program.
What is your perception of where we live and how we live?
Okay, so let me tell you this: if we live inside of an orange.
Yes. No. Let's not do orange. Let's do fire.
Yeah, but well, as far as okay. So we can't really travel after the 60th parallel south, right? There's the Antarctic Treaty that restricts us from moving south.
What is it? The
Antarctic Treaty. Antarctic Treaty restricts civilian movement below 60 degrees south. So just about at the bottom of South America, from there around the whole Earth, you're not allowed to go down south unless you're on a guided tour.
No.
So, Antarctic Treaty was signed in early 1960s or late 1960s by all the super countries of the world,
Very, very
and
full of information.
and I had to go and research everything again. Once I discovered that, say, 9/11 wasn't done by Osama bin Laden, and
No, it wasn't.
no.
My husband is Muslim.
Well, you know, and then Muslims, salam alaikum. The Muslims know they are not. Islam doesn't allow for people to be violent. It was the third rule. Or,
No, it is a crime.
A crime, yeah.
It is a sin.
It is a sin, and so Muslims in the main are not like that. But then you find out that Osama bin Laden's family was friends with George Bush's family, and all the connections start to fall apart, and it's all crazy. But that's a war against
Diana, right?
Yes, same as that.
So she was married. Well, she was getting married.
Yeah, to Dodi. Yeah.
There was never, ever gonna be able.
Sorry. Oh yeah.
There's never gonna be able.
To have a Muslim, yeah. Well, I mean, if she, okay, I won't argue. I won't argue about that. But we do live in a reality that has been created for us, layered on us. Muslims, teachers, scholars, Imam have spoken to me in Speaker's Corner about this flat Earth, and they say it's true that the Quran says the sun and the moon travel over the Earth, not that the Earth is rolling. And every Muslim, almost every Muslim I've ever spoken to will say evolution is a lie.
Why? Because I brought up as a child to know that
any person who believes in religion is going to say evolution is a lie.
No, many Christians are happy with evolution. I was taught evolution, and I came through a Christian background.
I do.
Whereas I respect that in Islam, they go, no, we're not buying that bit of science. Well, I'm saying that this other bit, which is the Big Bang, which was invented by a Catholic priest, George Lemaitre, this Big Bang is also part of evolution. It says that God did not intend. But God did not intend, Allah did not intend to create a beautiful place. God instead, or Allah, threw a grenade into a scrapyard and expected the Ferrari to drive out the other side. This is impossible in reality. We know that to build a Ferrari, you need precision. But to build a body, even more precision. And this is our Creator has the capacity to do that, not to wait billions of years.
What is your belief? Do you have a religion?
No, but I do believe that we are God's expression. And that, as Islam says, that if you want to find God, Allah, closer than the jugular vein in your neck.
Yeah.
Right? So God, this is the temple of God. I think that you are the expression of God.
Is my temple.
And this is your, and you are each other, but you are your own expression of God, unique, perfect, beautiful as you are.
My whole thing about all these worldwide conspiracies. Can you imagine how difficult it is to keep a liar conspiracy within a group of 5 people, 10 people?
Yeah.
How on earth are you going to keep it on worldwide conspiracy if you look at the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans? None of them get along with each other.
Do you think that Jesus is the only Son of God?
I have my own opinion.
I think the answer to that would be no, honestly, brother. The answer would be no to that question, right? But there are millions of preachers on a Sunday who line up and tell their children and their flock that this is the truth. Now, it doesn't matter what I believe. I'm just making the point that it is possible for me to give you an indoctrination or an education. By the time you're 10, you will build your worldview on that basis. And that is what I believe is the case with this. And that even someone who works in rocketry or in satellite engineering, I believe that these people believe that their satellites are going into the nose cone of a rocket and being launched into the vacuum of space. Even though they may only ever float on a helium balloon at 200,000 feet. They will still get a signal back, or NASA will offer them a data back, because anything that goes via NASA, all the schematics, all the way of building that thing has to be with NASA, so that they can repeat, or they can give you the data set that you're looking for. I met a guy who's a diver in South Africa, works for NASA. A diver working for NASA in South Africa, why would he be doing that? Well, he says that, no, because there's a black box at the bottom of a big dam near Johannesburg, and he has to dive down onto, he's a diver, he has to dive down onto that box, plug it in, get data from it, send it back to NASA every day. Now, why would NASA be in South Africa in a dam getting geophys when they should be in space getting that same data, according to them? NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. I think that this is the space, all we have is the space that we can measure and we can walk over. Outer space, I would like to say a little bit like the Genesis is that God separated the waters from the waters.
Yeah. Well,
so outside,
So there's no planets, there's no, that is just...
All those things that you see are sonoluminescence. That's sound and vibration. That is, we can film with a P900, the Nikon P900 camera. You can zoom in on that or go and watch YouTube videos of people doing that and slowing down that footage. And what you see is sonoluminescence. You are seeing cymatics. You know, when you take the vibration plate, you take a speaker and you put different frequencies through that speaker.
Like
the sand. Yeah, and as you change the tone, the frequency, the sand or the oil or the liquid will change shape. And it change shape into these fractal, divine, beautiful fractal shapes. That's what. So, well, we're talking about the stars right now. So I'm coming back to the stars. So the star in a jar experiment, which is mainstream science, called sonoluminescence, vibration into a liquid, causing a cavitation, and then a star, right? This is what we see on the ground. Then I give you the cymatics. I say, okay, what if I was to fire it at this frequency? And that frequency, would I start to see different patterns? Yes, I do. And when I look at Mars doing this at night with a powerful camera, or I see Alpha Centauri or something else doing like a different pattern, I'm told when I'm young that this is the atmospheric disturbance, But one is coming through as the colors of the rainbow. Another one's only red. Other one's white, and it's flickering in this different pattern. It's like, how can that be? It's traveling through the same atmosphere, and yet they look very different. And in fact, tomorrow night and 1,000 years ago, they look the same as they look tonight. Those different frequencies. So Mars, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, these are in you. You are the micro of the macro, and you have a solar plexus, a place of the sun. You have all of the...
We all have a solar plexus.
We all have a place of the sun.
We have an energy, which is
we have the chakra points, the 7 main ones, and these, I believe, are linked to these energy systems that are in the sky. And I think that they are at a frequency, just like your chakra is at a frequency. And when you marry these two up, you realize that we are so connected to the stars that we should really live our lives.
My husband is so historical, he's Egyptian.
Ah, well, then one of the things I love about Egypt, of course, is the pyramids.
Time.
Now, well, okay, but the pyramids are so well built, we cannot build them today. We cannot build, you know this. Apparently the Chinese tried to build a 1/6 scale SAR and they gave up because they are so precision and they are so massive that we cannot do that today. But the problem is that our historical narrative says that 12,000 years ago we came out of Africa, we started to get cattle and wheat and things like that, and then 6,000 years ago or thereabouts, these guys all of a sudden could build in a way that we cannot build today. So we say that there was higher technology before. People had higher powers before, and just like they burnt the witches at the stake a few hundred years ago, they did that because the woman had the power of the knowledge of the system. The woman is intuitive in the way that the man is left brain and masculine, the warrior. The woman is meant to be the intuit. Yes. She is meant to get the energy from the system if she's in touch. If her pineal gland is not rotten by the fluoride, she will then be she said, this is, and the women in the village would all get together at the right time of the month and they would say, okay, we're going to think now, and this is what the village must do. Now the men must go and do what the women have said. This is how it was. But they burned the ladies because they burned that knowledge out of our culture so that we do not give. Those ladies are gone.
Wow.
Or
you are so. You have so much knowledge.
Follow me. You can check me out on YouTube if you want to. I talk about all of this stuff. And I wish you guys a lovely day.
Is this your wife?
This is my wife.
Hello, beautiful wife. How are you? What's your name?
Andrea.
This is Andrea.
Sorry?
Andrea.
Andrea, nice to meet Andrea. This is my husband's son.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Have you seen this before?
No.
You must have heard something about flat Earth being spoken about on social media.
Yeah.
8 years ago, I believe we live on a globe. And then I found out that there's a formula for the curvature of water. And when you try and measure that formula, you'll find that there's none of it is there. So let me shortcut you to, because you're not interested in maths, probably. But let me tell you what, we can't measure that we're spinning. Now, if it's true that the Earth is flat, it means that you are the center of creation. I'm giving you the headlines at the beginning just to keep your attention. But I believe that each of us is the center of creation, and there should be nothing higher here than you and your honorable divine journey through your soul experience here. It's almost like this world that we're in now is like a dream state or a dream world that your soul has sent yourself into in this avatar as you now perfect. to have a beautiful experience of. But this whole game is designed to rob you of that. It's a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. You know how Dorothy's got to make her way up the yellow brick road, find her courage and all that sort of thing? Or she doesn't have to find her courage and she can just stay at home, as it were. And I think we're meant to take that yellow brick road, not get caught up in the distractions, not get caught up so much in materialism. And particularly for young ladies, you know, today, it's so hard not to get caught up in this ego materialism world that we live in, and you kind of get lost in, oh, am I competing with her? You are a divine, infinitely divine being of, let's say you never die, put it like that. This material body, once you go back, you'll wake up and you go, gee, that was a funny old dream. I was there for 70 years, it felt like a minute.
Yeah.
And that's how I think, and I had a near-death experience, which helped me along this journey 8 years ago, with DMT. You might have heard of DMT. Ayahuasca. And with that, I was given this sort of like near-death experience, which gave me to see that I'm an infinite being, that when I lose this life, I go back to where I come from. It's not to say it's good or bad. You can do whatever you like, because at the end of the day, when you put your head on the pillow, it's only you who's going to carry the burden of the things that you've done that you don't like and the things that you're proud of. So I think we're all electromagnetic beings, and we should treat each other with love and with respect and honor. So I go around trying to tell people that, but it does stem from realizing, oh, you don't need to take all of it. It does stem from realizing that we've been lied to about who we are and where we are. This one is on the electromagnetic nature of you, and that we are all fractals of whatever God is. I don't have a religion, by the way. I'm not promoting a religion, just that I think that we are the essence of God. There might be nefarious, dark forces in the world, you know, but the world is made up of light and dark, winter and summer, and I think that we need to realize that there is things raged against us, trying to stop us from becoming the natural born mother or person that we were meant to be. Because, you know, like a mother, I say to people, like, if you take a baby elephant, that baby elephant will know in the wild, will know instinctively what it's going to do with its life. And it will go on and be a mother and take a herd and care for them and do all of those things. Never needs to go to school to be taught that. It knows that instinctively. And we know this stuff instinctively. The truth is written on our hearts. But there's so much fluff, there's so much interference, there's so much TV, schooling, all these things that are designed to rob you of religion, designed to rob you of your true essence as the expression of God or Mother Nature or whatever. My name is David, and you can see more on YouTube.
Okay, we'll do. Right. Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
You too.
We'll go soon. Yeah. Hey man.
All right.
How you doing?
So what's the main reason why they would like it?
I was just, like I was saying to those ladies, young ladies, I think that we are God's expression. Mm-hmm. Whatever God is, I think that we are expressing as a fractal of the consciousness.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we live in a materialist world, in a material world that has us believing that it all comes from Big Bang, that we're insignificant, that we're stardust come together, rather than there was an intention by your higher self to express itself in this avatar for 90 years or whatever time you're here.
Yeah.
And peace, brother, peace. So that's my main thing, is that I think that we are so special, but it's like they want to trick us, or your higher self said, I'm going to set you a test. I'm going to put you in a forest of wolves, and I'm going to see whether you can make it, or you're just going to hide in a bunker and go along with the flock.
Yeah, but that still doesn't answer the question why they'd lie about it being round.
Oh, well, okay, specifically, I mean, it might be that it's part of the evolution deception, that we evolved from apes. It's part of you're insignificant in a vast vacuum of space, even though the W map, which is the background radiation, take a fly. I don't know if there's more in my bag. Have a look at my bag. The background radiation that they do every year puts Earth right at the center.
Right.
They don't like that. Philosophically, they don't like that, because in a Big Bang, for you to be at the center is starting to suggest that you're here on purpose, right in the middle.
So it's part of a bigger conspiracy
It's part of a much bigger, which is why religion exists, and religion is contentious. You know, it has people at each other's throats over my belief versus your belief.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that, as I say to people, can't be, you know, if there was a God, he wouldn't create, or it wouldn't create contending religions that say this versus that. And even within, say, Christianity, you've got so many strongly held differentials that you're never never in the same club. Even if you're a Seventh-day Adventist, or you're a Mormon, or you're this, or you're Catholic, no one's in the same club. It doesn't feel to me to be very loving. So I think this
that's part of the divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer, absolutely. So are governments and borders and nationalities and all of these sorts of things are dividing and conquering us, because ultimately we come from the same essence. We are the same. As the Africans say to me, we have the same blood running in our veins. And I think that we are all one, but we're at war with each other over all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so globe mentality for me, because I believed in all of the mainstream science for 47 years. So, I was a long time before I was willing to look at this. But when I did look at this, I realized, shit, that means I am right at this. Each of us is right at the center of whatever this is. Right. Don't know what's outside of it. Right. Don't make claims about what's outside of it. But whatever this is, we are center stage. However,
do you believe in like the moon landing and all that?
I used to.
Right. So that's the thing. You start to question everything then.
Yeah. You need to question.
Because if they lied that the world is round, then everything
that has to
be a lie.
Well, they couldn't do the moon landings if the world was round. In fact, there were good scientists, top scientists of the day in the 1950s, saying, laughing on TV, they'll never land on the moon. The moon is plasma. So it was very much this idea that it was a rock defying, the order of natural order of everything will fall down if it's heavy in the environment. Defying that, we've got this moon that can float by. It'll be coming soon. But we got this moon that can float by, and it looks sometimes like the blue sky in the daytime. The shadow looks the blue, and there's all these questions about it. Mainstream scientists today are taking laser pointers at the ground when it's full moon and saying, wow, it's colder in the direct moonlight than it is in the shade of the moonlight, which is the complete opposite of what the sun is.
Right.
So I'm not sure where I was going with that, but other to say that I think that the Earth is not. Yeah, the Earth is not. If the Earth is flat, then the moon is not the rock 238,000 miles away or whatever. It's probably a wave or something that each of us experiences uniquely. And the best example I can give people of that is that on a moonlit night, see how the clouds, if it's cloudy, often is, there will be a specular highlight just above where you're looking at the moon, and that area around here will all be light. And then as you get further away, it starts to fade.
Right.
But your friend who's 10 miles down the drag, where it's dark according to you, would go outside now and he would say, hey, it's just light for me and it's dark where you are.
Yeah.
In physics, in real world, if I took a spotlight and shone it on a sheet of cloud, and it was a single source that was illuminating the whole blanket, then that whole cloud should be illuminated as far as I can see.
Yeah.
So we're having a unique experience, each of us. I think we might each of us be like a unique universe. It's a crazy concept, but we might be the center of the wheel.
So you to be convinced, you'd have to literally go up in a rocket and see the Earth, the ground.
Not that, actually. I probably wouldn't even take that. Just a gyroscope would, because you understand how a gyroscope works.
Not exactly, no.
Okay, so a gyroscope is spun up at about 8,000 RPM, but it could be more, at its ground level, at its flat, whatever its horizontal is now.
Right.
And a pilot will watch that if he's in cloud or whatever to make sure that he's not going off the horizontal. They use that as their means of, staying horizontal. However, if I'm flying down the side to South Africa, Johannesburg, from Heathrow, I'm traveling a quarter of a way around a globe, and therefore my perpendicular has changed by 90 degrees.
Yeah.
My digital spirit level doesn't show that. The gyroscope doesn't show that. The drink in my systems, my own personal body systems, don't give me any sense that I'm now standing upright where I was lying down when I was in England, kind of thing.
So are you saying there's an edge of the Earth then?
Well, because it's electromagnetic and it's toroidal, then it has to be a sphere, but we're inside the sphere, not on the outside of the sphere. So let me put it to you like this. Right. If I took a balloon, made a sphere, and I filled it with water and stones and air, and I let that settle, then we know that the stones would be at the bottom, the water would be just around the stones, but any stones that were taller than the water level would be above the water level, and then above that would be gas. So inside of our world, I believe it is an enclosed system. I think that if there's an edge, it might be what they call the Antarctic ice ring, which apparently Antarctica is the highest landmass on Earth on average. And there was this operation called Operation High Jump that was done in the 1960s, where we believe they were trying to get onto they were trying to get onto the Antarctic ice shelf. And so we see lots of images of this Antarctic ice shelf being this really tall wall, maybe 300 feet, 200 feet tall. And then behind that, you've got mountains and all sorts of inhospitability. And we're not allowed to travel there and explore it. You know, the Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1960 odd, and it stops average citizens like you and me from just wandering down there. If you've got the money to charter a boat, you can't just decide to go down wherever you want and go and cruise around it. You cannot do that. I met a guy the other day here. He's an Arctic and Antarctic tour guide.
Okay.
And he said, well, because he's a globe believer, but he said, so what we do is we're on this peninsula, and we're able to travel around this peninsula.
What's the name of the pub that we went to?
Oh, it was called, not the Sovereign, was it the Sovereign? No, the Pavilion.
Something Arms.
Pavilion Arms. Up at, I'll get it for you. It's on my phone. Oh, you want to come next month? Yeah.
I'm saying, sorry, sir, I was just saying to your wife here, I was like, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks I'm mental, because I actually get told that I'm crazy. But when it came to the whole COVID thing, I woke up to a whole load of things.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, no. And then in the Bible, because she goes to a Catholic school basically.
Oh, okay.
So I started reading up on the Bible. In the Bible, it said that the earth is flat. So I want to know why they're teaching why it's not flat and why it's round.
Spot on.
And everything
Spot on. When I was a kid, I could see it in the Bible. I was like, why are you teaching the Bible's out of touch, because science tells me that it's a globe. But guess who came up with the Big Bang? Big Bang Theory is a Catholic priest called George Lemaitre. It makes no sense to me. It's like, why would the Catholics be coming up with saying with evolution? Well, I couldn't understand why my church wasn't having a real kickoff and saying, why are you teaching these kids evolution at school? Because it's completely against the Old Testament and completely against the idea that we are created perfect, rather that we're random and insignificant, which is part of what I think the globe deception is all about, is that you're just a lucky strike explosion. And I say to people, if you threw in a grenade in a scrapyard, would you see a 747 fly out the other side? No. A Ferrari drive out this side? No, of course not. But that's what they want us to believe with the Big Bang, and it comes from George Lemaitre, a Catholic priest.
That sounds really silly. Would my daughter be able to attend? Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like me and my dad, we go at loggerheads, mate.
Do you question the global warming as well?
Yes.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, we're about the same age, you and me, I think.
Yeah.
And when I was, cheers. Yeah. When I was a youngster, they told me that the polar, and that everything was going to melt, and that the sea level were going to rise and swallow low level cities. So I was back in South Africa last year or so, and swimming in the same beach that I swam in 50 years before, and it's the same sea level that I grew up with, same distance from the road to the beach and so on. So
I think there is natural climate change anyway.
Absolutely.
Cycle.
Absolutely. And
we're cyclical beings, live in cycles.
There's been ice ages before.
So we get extremes, super extremes, perhaps like an ice age. Now on a flat Earth, this idea that you've got the sun either traveling across the equator at the central point or traveling around in a circular point. I don't know exactly how it works, but if you modeled that with a light at home, like a lamp, you could take a hot lamp and melt a block of ice just by running that sun around, that light around it. But at the extremities of where the light couldn't reach, then it would still be solid.
Right.
And this is how we conceive of an Earth in which the sun's effect can either shrink or expand the amount of melt ice. And that would have the effect of creating perhaps a Northern European ice age, or a great drying in the deserts.
It used to be under ice years ago anyway.
This is what we're taught. I also, along this road, I came across two subjects of interest. One is Tartaria, as a possible civilization that was before, and that inhabited some of these buildings that we inherited. And the other is mud flood. So this is...
Do you think there was advanced civilizations in the past that died out?
Yes.
Because that's been on the internet quite a bit.
Oh, has it? Okay, yeah. So that seems to me to be, and also that mankind was once much bigger. Our physical stature could have been 15 feet, 12 feet easily. Some suggest even bigger than that.
Well, it's hard to explain the pyramids. That maybe it was giants that done it.
Yeah, and with a technology or an ability that is hard to. Yeah, they can't build them today. You know, that's the technology. So if you take the clock backwards, say we're the most advanced, and you take the clock backwards through the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages and so on, you know, you're getting to a particularly quite a retarded backward step by the time you go back 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years, and yet they build something that we can't replicate today.
Yeah.
Same with the Canterbury Cathedral or the cathedral. We love visiting them, you know. And these
in Italy,
yeah.
or any of the architecture.
It's like, wow.
Unexplained things, yeah.
Wow, and we've seen doors in Italy where it's like I could barely throw a stone to reach the top of that door. Now, I used to make the excuse they needed for the carts of hay or whatever, they needed to have a big doorway or whatever. I don't think that any of that stuff is true. So a man spoke to me the other day in the street. He said, "Oh yeah, you know, I hadn't come across this, but he's like, oh yeah, it's true. I have found seashells when mountain climbing in England." Which plays into this idea that the Noah's flood story is far more recent than the 6,000 years that they tell us in the Bible, and that we have been inundated either locally, like say Europe, or pan-Earth, where there's some kind of deluge that ends everything, that most of civilization goes back into the caves, and then we build our way back out again, or conspiratorially that the people who run the game, they know this stuff, they hide the technology, and then over hundreds of years they slowly eke it back out along with an education that sort of edifies this idea of we come from the Dark Ages kind of thing. So I think.
Do you think the root of it is just control?
I think it's spiritual. Actually, it's a spiritual war. That's the root of it. The control, like to have they can print as much money as they want, so they use that money and they use the job title to get us to do things. But really, it's about, I think, about trying to usurp our natural God-given journey of soul or self-discovery as part of our sort of improving our consciousness.
A lot of COVID restrictions seem to be just about control, not really about health.
And also, yeah, definitely about control, but also showing you who's the boss.
It might be a blueprint for us to come with global warming.
I couldn't agree more. I think there is more war to come. It could be the global warming war, but it's a war against you. It's a war against me. It's a war against your neighbor. You know, we don't want your neighbor to breathe freely because he might make you sick. We don't want your neighbor to use plastic. We don't want him to go on a holiday. We don't want him to do this. We don't want him 15-minute cities and all sorts of restrictions.
They seem what they can get away with. And then they carry on with the global warming.
Well, it's a little bit like training a dog, really. You take a little bit this time, and then you let off the lead, and then you take him a little bit further down that road. And if you had to speak to our great grandparents, and they had to look around at the level of legislative control over your life now, they would be horrified. But how did it happen? Well, as David Icke says, it's the totalitarian tiptoe.
Well, it's like what was them books, 1984. Yeah.
George Orwell.
True, haven't they?
Yes. And he had inside knowledge, whether it was a predictive programming book or whether he was just letting a little cat out the bag. But hates or control of our speech, control of what we do. Even your thoughts.
Backwards.
Yeah, everything backwards. So when they say we're evolving, I think they're trying to take us down a devolution route. I'm not upset about that. It is just the nature, perhaps, of things here. But once you know that, it gives you the opportunity to rise above the bullshit.
Yeah. Everything seems to be connected anyway.
Absolutely. Did I give you a flyer already?
I think you did.
Yeah. Let me talk to these folks quickly. Cheers, bro. Hi, folks. I put in these banners today because I like to inform people that we are the center of creation, that we should not have government telling us what we are, who we are. But God created us perfect in the image of God. And we are meant to have a divine experience here, not one that is super controlled, that everything you do has to be given permission by the external government. You are your own master. So the Earth is not a globe, by the way. It's not spinning. We don't evolve from monkeys. That's all lies, designed to weaken God's intention. I have a flyer on the electromagnetic universe. Would you like to take one?
I'm okay, thank you. This is quite full.
Do you study science? Yeah, I know that's going to really add to the load, isn't it?
I've got books and stuff in there, so really
do you study science?
I'm not in education at the moment. I work full time.
Oh, okay. Do you know that there's no experiment that shows that Earth is spinning?
You know, the Earth is not flat, the Earth is round. Because if the Earth was flat, everything would
Fall off, yeah. Oh yeah, but don't think about it like a pancake, and don't think about it, the vacuum of space. See, the vacuum of space has never been proven. You and I can't prove the vacuum of space. We've seen it on TV, but we can't prove it. So we say we're inside a system. There cannot be an edge. If you were the fruit inside of the orange, would you think about the edge?
I'm just curious. Sorry, are you recording? First
Yes.
of all?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't like being recorded. I feel uncomfortable being recorded.
Do you?
Yeah, sorry. It's more when cameras are on me. I don't mind the audio. It's just.
Okay. Well, I'll record your lady friend.
But no, my question is, because it is interesting, because I always like. I'm not argumentative. I like debates because it's like points go. So the only thing I can think of is, like you said, there's no evidence the Earth is round. Do you have any scientific evidence that the Earth is flat? Because if we can't trust the government, because of course we can't see that.
Yeah.
Have you seen? So do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Let me answer that question. So, water is my best evidence on this question. Two. What?
planets burning, after planets are flooding, and what's going to happen, maybe soon that we're going to have a tidal wave,
Yeah.
and the water's going to cover the whole planet.
Like a Noah's flood.
That's right. Yeah, like a...
What if you don't have to convince me of that, man, because let me tell you, I study something called mud flood, in which we contend that the earth was flooded in the last 500 years. Noah's flood style that wiped out most of Europe, Africa, all of these places. So, but let me answer your question, right? So the water bending over its surface, never proven. Water being level, you can prove that in your bath, in the lake, the Suez Canal, which is 120 kilometers long and provably level from end to end. And then Lake Bilikal in Russia, which freezes over.
Oh yes, you're talking about Russia. You know what's going to happen? Putin, is it Putin or whatever it's called? He's going to put a nuclear weapon in the sea, and they set it off, and it's going to destroy all of Britain. It goes under the sea.
Ah.
Get rid of Britain.
Ma'am, you sound like a conspiracy theorist.
No, but I'm clever. I'm clever.
No, I think that I think that man has got a big ego, and he likes to think that he can destroy the earth, and he may be able to send his children to war, yes, or poison them with needles, yes, but I don't think that mankind can kill the earth or itself. That ultimately we will continue to be here in one form or another. But the idea that that water is curving over its surface is easy to debunk.
Britain has got chemical weapons.
So did Saddam Hussein, ma'am. See, this is how I've never heard this story before, but let me tell you that weapons of mass destruction, 45 minutes, that was a lie by the British government. Did you know that? And the Americans. Colin Powell lied when he held up the pictures of his chemical trains. Those chemical trains turned out to be scrubbing trains sold by the British to the Iraqis. Let me tell you that war was fabricated. The Second World War was fabricated and funded by the same bankers. What's happening in this country now is people are being weaponized against our brothers and sisters in Russia, so that in the years to come, we will go back to war with them, because we truly believe that this madman called Putin is worthy of wiping out people. Do you know that I saw a newspaper article recently, British people were paying money to have their names put on bombs that were going to drop and kill people. The British people were paying. Why? Because they believe the propaganda. The propaganda that there is an enemy coming to get you is the reason why we believe we need government. Because the more that you feel that you are under threat, the more that you will ask me to protect you. So the government's sole purpose, like Mencken said, the philosopher Mencken said, is to create a never-ending series of hobgoblins with which to frighten the populace. Now, I lived in South Africa. I went to war in a country called Angola based on propaganda fed to me for the first 19 years of my life. Let me tell you that the reason why we go to war with each other is because we really believe that there's a threat.
Because man is destruction of itself.
Huh? Yeah, we will do, but that's because we hate on ourselves. Because we allow these people, these puppets like Putin and Boris and Trump, we allow them to get us to go to war. Ma'am, it's been lovely talking to you. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.